Okay, welcome to the Drive Able podcast, where we discuss all things about driving and safer community transport for people with disabilities and medical conditions. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you go back and listen to the last episode. In that episode, we interviewed Nev, who is driving when faced with MS. Great interview.
Yeah, thanks, Ali. Yeah, this is episode 7, where we reflect on Nev's story and his driving. Ali, you ready for this?
Yep, let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Driving is something many take for granted, but when someone has altered ability, then driving or getting out and about in your own car can be challenging. Driving with a disability doesn't mean you have to drive an old clapped out car with farm-like machinery, and relying on a wheelchair doesn't mean waiting for hours and then being in the back of a maxi access cab getting carsick. The Drivable podcast is designed to introduce and explore driving aids for people with disabilities, vehicle modifications, the NDIS, research, medical guidelines, driving techniques, and much, much more. The Drivable podcast is to help you be informed and be in control of your own independence so you can experience freedom through driving safely and reliably. I'm Ali, and with me is Brad, and together we have over 30 years of experience in disability and driving. Enough of the intros, let's get into it.
Okay, this is episode 7, where we're reflecting on the last episode. And in that episode, we interviewed Nev Vanderbrink, bloody legend in my mind. Unfortunately, Ali, you weren't able to join us for that podcast because we did it on location. We did it over a weekend at the SA and Northern Territory Multiple Sclerosis Mighty Swim event. So sorry you couldn't be there, but I do know that you've listened into the interview and you've been able to take some notes on it. How did you find it?
Yeah, it was really good, and sorry I couldn't be there as well. I would have come over, but with COVID and everything, too many risks in bloody traveling around. So we'll be together again soon. But yeah, I just watched the video actually before we recorded this, and I thought it was great. I'm really keen to talk about it. I've taken a few notes, and the event looked heaps of fun and looked very challenging, and also Nev, as he said, is a bloody legend. So and the stuff he was talking about, it was just inspiring to hear him talk. So it was great.
Yeah, we'll get into the Mighty Swim stuff a little bit later on, because we want people to be fully aware of that and what we're doing. And we've got a bit of a challenge out there for the listeners tuning into this episode. But let's reflect on Nev's condition to start off with. He's got MS, or multiple sclerosis. And for people that don't know much about that, because we got a bit carried away with the swimming event in the background. So let's touch on that to start off with. MS is a progressive disease. So the body's mechanisms start to, for an easy term, eat away at itself. And messages from the brain to your muscles becomes harder and harder to do. There's 2 different types of MS, and we talked about that quickly in the interview. There's primary progressive and remitting and relapsing. And Nev said he was sitting on the fence. Mate, Ali, do you actually know what that means?
I'm not from a medical point of view. I'm not fully aware of it, but what I do see and notice is the interesting thing how it affects you in different ways, even if you have like a similar kind of thing to somebody else, which I would imagine would be very, very frustrating because and it seems to be dynamic as well, like on a daily basis.
Yeah, well, that's the remitting, relapsing side of it all. So people with MS can be really affected by heat. So hot weather, as an example, can make the muscle, when the muscles get hot and the nerves get hot, it makes it actually worse. So look, from a technical viewpoint, from a medical viewpoint, your nerve roots that run to your muscles have got a fiber wrapped around it, and that demyelinates. And basically, it's like if you think about an electrical cord, it's got the plastic wrapped around it. It's like the plastic not being around your electrical cord, and the electricity basically is escaping. So the messages aren't getting through to the same amount of power. That's the easiest way that I can explain it. But like you said, it affects people in different ways. MS is one of these things where for Nev, it's impacting on his right side, especially his upper limb at the moment, but it's starting to impact on his lower limbs as well. And for other people, it's from the waist down. So the bottom half doesn't work as well. So both legs don't work as well, and walking's really difficult, but the hands and arms are still really strong. Other people, it's the left side. And for other people, the legs still work, but the arms are affected. That's a little bit more rare, that one. It's usually the distal aspects that get affected. So yeah, it affects people in different ways. And from you as a mobility expert there, Ali, you know, we've got to reflect on how that impacts on trials.
Yeah, well, it was interesting actually, because what he spoke about was, I guess, the product that he uses, and it's like just well, I can't remember the terminology you used, but it was like a longer spin knob, basically, kind of like a joystick type thing.
Yeah, so that one's the mono spin when we're out there looking for it, but instead of a round ball, for people that are watching this on YouTube, you'll be able to see my hand in a bit of a claw. And I really encourage you to go and watch the episode with Nev on YouTube, because there's a lot of activity going on in the background. You don't just need to listen to it. Go and look for Drive Able podcast on YouTube, and you'll get to see all the event in the background, including Tim, the head of the MS Society in South Australia in the Northern Territory. He's dressed up in a pool ring, and he's got a snorkel on and so forth. He's having a bit of fun in the background. But you can see me right now with a bit of a claw in my hand, and that's for a smaller round ball spinner knob, which people might be able to think of as something that's on a forklift or a tractor. And that's the image that most people get in their head. Nev's got a slightly different one because of his hand function. It is impacting on his left hand a little bit, but he's also got massive hands. He's a basketball player, and his hands are huge. And he just engulfed the standard spinner knob, absolutely engulfed it, and basically was scraping his knuckles on the steering wheel. So he ended up going for one that he could grip with all of his fist. And basically, like we said in the podcast, he's singing into it like a microphone. Well, he doesn't sing into it, but he's holding it as if he's singing into a microphone. Yeah.
It's I guess it was interesting because what I was thinking was, as a modifier, as a supplier, or even as a therapist, it's not like if you've got someone who doesn't have the use of their lower limbs, there's a XYZ number of solutions, and it's very easy to work with that person. And you go, here we've got a catalog of solutions. Let's go through these and see what works. But what I noticed, I guess, with this is that it's going to be a lot more dynamic. You've got to spend a lot more time actually understanding what works, what doesn't, on what days, and as I think it was mentioned in there, you've got to kind of start with the worst days and assess on those situations, which and I would say on the worst days, you probably are not in the mood to be doing assessments and things, So
how do you assess? Absolutely right. And that is one of the biggest challenges that we've got with MS. It is especially the relapsing remitting style of MS. Nev said he's currently sitting on the fence. He started with relapsing remitting, but he's the evolution of the disease, he's kind of rolling over into the primary progressive, where the deterioration's a little bit more constant. But yeah, we've got to try and assess for the worst possible day. And you're absolutely right. On your worst day with MS, I haven't got it. I'm only talking from my experience with clients that we see with MS on a regular basis, is that on the days that they do have MS, they don't feel like being pushed and prodded and trying and sitting in for an assessment that goes for a couple of hours. They just don't have the energy levels to do that.
Yeah, so I guess that would be pretty challenging. And I guess to segue into sort of what I thought was really impressive with Nev in general was he does have a very good level of self-awareness. And so it would be probably easier to work with someone like him because he was able to really identify his issues. And then even when he was speaking about, like literally within the first year, he started to realize that his driving wasn't as great as what it was. And most people I've experienced would just keep pushing through and trying their best and so on. And I'm not there yet, but he took that proactive approach and it's really based on the stuff that he said. And that's why I was just really inspired, because he put his own pride and everything aside, and he only did it because he didn't want in any way, shape or form be a risk to his community, to his family, to the other people around there. And as he said, he could never live with himself if he had hurt someone else, and there's not many people around that think that way, so that was pretty...
I can vouch for that with my experience as well. We quite often do assessments for people that have had the minor accident, that have had the close call. And I applaud Nev as well. He got into it and started looking for solutions before it became a major issue, knowing that his hand was deteriorating. And he said he was struggling to have his hand on the steering wheel. So he knew that something was going on and that needed to start to look at this. And I posed the question to him, when will he know when it's time to do something else? As we know, he's got a progressive disease. How will he know when it's time to do something about that right foot on the accelerator and the brake? Or how will he know if steering's becoming an issue with his left arm as well? And
that really kind of sparks a bigger sort of thing, particularly for me personally, something that I'm actually very, very personally passionate about because of my own personal experiences is that people, one really common thing I've experienced is people do tend to ignore those symptoms for too long. And, because of their own personal pride or changing circumstance or images or whatever they have, the things they're dealing with, they leave it too late. And one of the most common stories I get when we're doing trials or we're showing them products, they turn around, I don't need that yet, I don't need that yet. And I'm not completely invalid yet. And the thing is that once you are, then you can't use those products. You're bound to a bed. And my personal experience of that is, and that's actually the reason why I'm in this company and doing what we're doing is for my own grandparents. Like my grandmother I've told this story heaps, got hit by a car, became disabled in a wheelchair, and they didn't, because of pride and, and also their generation didn't believe in spending money, and there wasn't NDIS back then and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, we're not wasting our money on that. We can just figure it ourselves. But then fast forward 10 years, my grandfather is dead because he ended up with all sorts of issues like MS and arthritis and all these kind of health problems because he destroyed his body. He was the aid. He was the lifting arm. He was the turning seat. He did everything. And you just watched him deteriorate his whole body into nothing. And now he's not around. And where is she? Bedbound, in a nursing home, So, and that's just one of the most depressing things to see, so...
I got a different way of reflecting on it as well. I mean, people will go out and buy power tools for the garden to make shoveling easier, to make lawn mowing easier, to do edges easier. They'll go and buy tools to make life easier. Same in the kitchen, electric can openers, coffee machines, you name it. We're buying products to make life easier. But when it comes to driving, there is this stigma around it's not the normal way to do it. Yeah, I'm meant to have two hands on the steering wheel. I'm meant to have my right foot on the pedal and the brake and my left foot either on the clutch or not. And it's a real mind shift to be able to move into buying a power tool to be able to help make driving easier for you, the same way as a garden tool does. And if we can encourage people in this episode, especially if you're listening to this with MS, to think about it maybe a bit more in that form, that the tools there are to make it easier and to make it safer for you and the public as well. And if we can get our head around that, I don't need it yet, versus maybe this can help me and prolong my driving in a safer way so I don't have those close calls. If we can get people to think a bit more like that, then, that's one of the major reflection points of this episode.
And also, I think if you can get into it early and bypass all of your, I guess, the issues around that. I mean, if you look at Nev's situation, what's very clear is he also did not want to have an impact on the way he lived his life, right?
Yep.
So he's like, you know what, I'm moving through life at 50 kilometers an hour, 60 kilometers an hour. I don't want that to slow down. I don't want to change what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I need these aids so I can continue moving at that same thing and still interact with my community and do. And I would dare say, if anything, it looks like he's doing more now that so these devices have kind of given him more confidence and empowered him to do more.
The mighty swim is one of those examples. Absolutely.
And those challenges he's doing and all that stuff, he wasn't doing that before. So
yeah, we'll move into that for 1 second, but there's one more thing that I want to reflect on. When we first started the journey with Nev in regards to the spinner knob, he did not need the spinner knob every day. But on his bad days, he was able to use it and get out and about. Maybe if he didn't have it, he would have had to stay at home or taken a risk. And we don't want people to do that. So he was able to get out and about on hot days, to go and pick up kids from school and able to run his kids around to basketball and so forth. And then on some days he probably didn't need it. But it was there and he was able to use it on his good days. And that's what we really want people to reflect on as part of this story.
Yeah, things are there to help you last longer. So use them.
But like you said, he's doing amazing stuff, Nev. He's done the MS Mighty Swim now 2 years in a row. Last year, they raised $17,000, which is amazing, the team itself. And this year, in the last 15 minutes of the swim, the team itself clicked over to $20,000, which is phenomenal effort. We're of the understanding that smashed the previous record for the amount raised by a team. And the MS Society overall raised over 100,000, and it's still climbing.
That's bloody awesome. I mean, that event looked like heaps of fun. So, and I mean, it's something that I actually wouldn't mind being involved in the future, because I like the whole endurance stuff and doing crazy things for long periods of time and all that kind of thing. So
yeah, mate, swimming for 4 hours is not fun. I was lucky; I got out of it for an hour when I had to do the interview. So I planned that really, really well. So, but I had to come back, and apparently I was apparently well rested, and I had to smash out the laps in the last hour, and I'm still feeling it today. I'm in pain. So look, he's an amazing guy, and like we talked about, and if you go and have a look at the Facebook page when we put this episode out there, and we'll do a bit of a slideshow for the YouTube channel as well. We've rated his Facebook profile, and we've copied a whole bunch of his photos from his dares, with his permission, of course. And there's pictures of him dressed up as Elsa from Frozen, mowing his front lawn, and dressed up as a bogan, and dressed up as Hulk Hogan going through a shopping center, dressed up in an old swimming costume from the 1900s, really early 1900s, going through a shopping center. He's done all of these dares. I dared him when I first got wind of him doing this event before I got sucked into swimming. I dared him to wax his legs so he could swim faster. He did that. He waxed his legs up to his knees. He's been through a lot of pain. He's eaten chilies. He's had afterburn the day after. He hates chilies. He's eaten chili con carne. The poor fella's been through a lot, but himself, he raised, I think it's close to 5,000 grand, just him doing those dares. So amazing effort. Really, really good.
Yeah, it's really good. And I guess to keep him going, we put a challenge for him as well.
We did. We put it out there. Do you want to explain it to people?
Yeah, so basically we've dared Nev to, because he's in SA, and a bit of or in Adelaide, right?
Yep.
So it seems like a bit of a rite of passage for people from Adelaide is also to do this drive to Broken Hill.
Yep, I've done it for work. It's not the most fun drive.
Yeah,
It is.
It just seems
six.
to be this thing for people from Adelaide, though. I've spoken to a few people, and it just seems to be like this. You've got to do it at one point.
Yep. I don't know why.
Like
there's
a rite of
there's
passage. So,
no offense to people in Broken Hill, but there's not much there when you get there.
Yeah, I think it's just the idea of going to the border or something. So
I don't know what it is.
So yeah, but I guess on that note, we've sort of dared him to maybe redo a bit of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert style of a drive. So get out to Broken Hill from Adelaide, do that rite of passage, but do it in drag.
But do it in drag. That's right. So one of his challenges was to dress up as Elsa. One of his other challenges was to get fully made up as a girl. So he's got makeup on, he's got lipstick on, he's got a lovely blonde wig on. We've decided to combine both of those dress ups and ask him to do a driving challenge and recreate Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. We're not sure if he'll get the big shoe on the back of the bus and a big drapesing shawl out the back of the bus, but we've asked him to drive to Broken Hill dressed in drag, stopping at towns along the way. He's a massive Farmers Union Iced Coffee man. Shout out to Farmers Union Iced Coffee if you want to get on board and sponsor this program and do a donation yourself. He's passionate about raising money for MS and doing whatever he can. And he will do this challenge, but we need more money to get him to do it. So we ticked over 20,000. We're asking our listeners to get on board as well. Ali and I, we've donated $500 from the Drive Able podcast to get this challenge on the road, pun intended. And we're asking if people can donate who listen to this and get the raised funds from 20,000 to 21,000 and beyond. Nev will do this challenge for us. And he will hit the road, and we will post up all of the videos on our YouTube channel, and we'll laugh along with him along the way.
Yeah, no, it should be good. Get onto it, guys. As Brad said, we're putting $500 of our own up, and looking at the photos and videos, and just even to be honest, when I watched the video of Brad interviewing Nev, you just can't help but smile the whole time you're watching him. Yeah. Because he's just got a great energy, and just kind of, I was chuckling and smiling the whole time. So yeah, the point is go and watch what he does. He'll entertain you. It's worth every dollar of entertainment. You know?
Absolutely, yeah. So please get on board, whether it's $1, $2 or more. Jump on board. So the address to go to, we'll put this in the show notes as well. But you want to look for www.teammsant.org.au/fundraisers with an S on the end /Nev's Snorkelers. Now we'll put the link in the show notes, so please click on it, and if you can, donate. Now donations officially close. We're of the understanding we're working with the MS Society to try and keep this open beyond the end of February 2021. So if you're listening to this in the future, you might find that it's hard to donate. But don't worry, Nev will be doing another Nev Snorkelers challenge next year. So you can get in early and donate to that when it comes out for this time next year, which is February 2022. And if you're listening to this is the best thing about podcasts. You might be listening to this in 10 years' time. Keep an eye out for Nev Snorkelers and the MS Society of South Australia and the Northern Territory. Please keep donating to his cause. And we'll keep you up to date as time goes by as well. But if you're struggling to donate and you really want to donate to this amazing guy, amazing cause, get in contact with us through our Facebook page, which is Drive Able Podcast. Just search for that and you'll be able to get in contact with us there.
Yeah, we'll help you get on board. All right, that's it for this episode. Thank you very much for joining us and listening in.
Yeah, and a huge thank you to Nev for joining us in the last episode and talking through his MS and driving, but also taking on one last dare to raise even more money for the MS Society for South Australia and the Northern Territory. We really thank him for being an amazing sport. This is probably one of the tougher challenges that he'll have to do. It's post the event. His motivation's probably low. So we really thank him for taking this on. And we're hoping that you guys will get on board as well. Like we said, if you're listening to this episode in the future, get involved still by getting in contact with us at our Facebook page, Drive Able Podcast. That's all you need to search for. And we'll make it really easy for you to make a donation. Ali, mate, what was your main takeaway from the last episode?
To be honest, it was actually, I was thinking about that, and I wrote it down here, and it was actually very similar to the same as the last guy we spoke to with the attitude. The attitude towards stuff really makes such a difference in terms of your experience. And I was actually having a chat to someone else that I work with, and even you'll see in someone that we've got coming in the future, if you take the attitude of positivity, open-mindedness, working with your community. So with Nev in particular, and the common themes that I've seen in other people that have been more successful with their journeys is positive attitude, but really working together as a community, bringing people together and working together, working with your OTs, your modifiers, everybody, your community, donating where you can, doing what you can for each other. When you move through life and your community that way, you're going to be happy, you're going to be fine, and everything's going to be all right.
Yeah, I think it's that acceptance of your disability and being able to embrace it as part of your life and being able to move through that. And I think that's part of my biggest takeaway is that he was able to do that really early and understand MS, progressive in nature. It's a bit like, I don't know, I struggle with my weight now and every now and again, and it's a bit like gaining weight, and you don't know that it's happening until somebody, you get that startling reflection in the mirror one day and you have to do something drastic about it. If you keep it under control early, then you've got a better life ahead of you. So same with the MS. Let's encourage people to get in early and look at all the options as early as you possibly can. And you might be able to stay safer for much longer on the road.
Yeah, exactly. Sounds
all right.
Good. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, and as we say in every episode, make sure that you get in contact with your OT or get in contact with your mobility dealer and set yourself up with a trial. Trials really do put you in the driver's seat.
Make sure you get out there and trial products, people.
All right, that's it for today. Thanks very much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Drivable Podcast with Brad Williams and Ali Akbarian. Make sure you check out the Facebook page and socials. If you like what you have heard, make sure you like, rate, and subscribe. It makes a massive difference. If you or anyone you know would like to share your story about driving with a disability, make sure you reach out to us through the socials. Just search for us. For more information and the resources mentioned in this episode, then go to the Drivable Podcast on Facebook and tune into the next episode. See you next time.